Mr. President, I want to thank my friends, Senators Padilla and Blumenthal, for putting together this floor block. Yesterday was election day for many Americans. They stood at the ballot box and voted their conscience. But they weren't just voting for a candidate, they were voting for a vision of our nation. Will we continue to be that nation that stands for those powerful words carved over the entrance to the Supreme Court, equal justice under law? Or will we allow MAGA politics and President Trump's assault on the rule of law to damage the democratic process that we hold so dear? Well, the American people certainly answered that question yesterday with resounding votes rejecting the Trump administration's disastrous policies. We know the right to vote is under attack from those who seek to undermine, in some cases deny, the very will of the American people, the heart of our democracy. There has been an effort for years to restrict access to the ballot under the false banner of, quote, election integrity, close quote. Under the Trump administration, this effort's being led by the very government entities that were created to protect the right to vote. This betrayal is deliberate. It is eroding the foundation of our democracy. Let me be clear. There is no longer a functioning federal entity actively safeguarding each American's right to vote, our most fundamental constitutional freedom. The Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, once the defender of voting access for communities of color, those serving in the military, rural voters, people with disability, has been devastated by President Trump. Let me tell you a little anecdote. Last night I was in the grocery store on Capitol Hill buying a few things to eat. A woman came up to me and said she knew who I was, and she wanted to let me know what her situation was. She works in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, and she's furloughed at the present time. She said, do you know how many people are left in this Civil Rights Division, which once had almost 200 employees? 63. It's been devastated by Trump. Under the Trump administration's reimagined mission, aligned with MAGA politics and driven by the lie of widespread voter fraud, the Civil Rights Division voting section has abdicated its role in confronting the real and rising tide of disenfranchisement. Attorney General Pam Bondi removed the voting section's leadership team and ordered the dismissal of the section's active cause cases. The voting section is responsible for enforcing federal laws that were enacted to protect the right to vote, including the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, the National Voter Registration Act, and the Help America Vote Act. The decision to gut this section by Attorney General Bondi and the White House will harm American voters and cause long-lasting damage. It is part of the Trump legacy. The Trump administration also ordered the Justice Department to monitor polling sites in California and New Jersey before yesterday's election at the request of Republican Party officials. While election monitoring is a crucial tool, deploying monitors on a partisan basis is outrageous. We know that voter fraud is extremely rare, extremely, but President Trump and Republicans continue to baselessly claim it is rampant, trying to suppress the vote. We must fight these dangerous attempts to restrict the right to vote and restore confidence in our democracy by ensuring that every eligible American has access to the ballot. That's why, in honor of my late friend and voting rights pioneer, Congressman John Lewis, I've been proud to introduce a bill that bears his name, the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act Advancement Act, which would restore and strengthen the Voting Rights Act. It's been an honor to work with Senator Warnock of Georgia and Senator Leahy before him to lead this legislation as a former chair and now ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. I remain committed to seeing this bill signed into law. This legislation should be a no-brainer. The issue of access to the ballot used to enjoy overwhelming bipartisan support. Now it's been gamed and politicized by the MAGA bunch. But since the conservative majority in a divided 5-4 Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Shelby County decision, this has become an increasingly partisan issue. Attacks on voting rights aren't happening in a vacuum. Across this country, Republican lawmakers and litigators are using every trick in the book to change the rules of the game in their favor and cling to power. Purging voter rolls, closing polling places, making it more difficult by restricting mail-in voting, undermining the Voting Rights Act, all for one purpose, to limit access to the ballot box. The Republicans actually believe we're a better nation if fewer people vote. I believe every eligible person should vote if you want a true democracy working. President Trump is hell-bent on continuing to undermine faith in our elections and attack the rule of law, whether by inciting a violent mob on January 6, which overran the Senate chamber to overturn the results of a free and fair election, or by demanding that blue states turn over reams of voter data to his administration. President Trump has led a long, coordinated campaign to suppress the vote in America. We now face a critical question. Will we sit idly by while Trump and MAGA Republicans steamroll the great American experiment, or will we cause some good and necessary trouble, as John Lewis once said, to save our democracy and our precious, almost sacred right to vote? If yesterday's election are any indication of how the American people feel about this administration, I'd say they're in for more, and you better get ready for more good trouble. I yield the floor.